Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy, trundling along in a 2019 Toyota Sienna minivan, which in a way will serve as the entree for today's rant, because big vehicles like this are on the endangered species list, and that ties into this whole thing with General Motors, curiously, on the one hand, announcing that it's going to stop building almost all of its passenger cars, with the exception of the Corvette and I think one or two others, but the majority of its passenger cars are going away so that it can, quote, concentrate on trucks and SUVs. And I think that's dandy, but here's the problem. At the same time that GM CEO Mary Barra says they're going to do that, she's also jumping on board with California and Colorado and some of the other snowflake states that are fighting Trump, who is trying to dial back the corporate average fuel economy federal fatwa that's on deck to go up to about 50 miles per gallon 6 model years from now, by model year 2025. And if it stays in force, there's no freaking way that GM or anybody else is going to be able to build more than a paltry handful of trucks or SUVs of any kind, because there's no way that trucks and SUVs are going to average 50 miles per gallon or anything close to it. Check out the stats for yourself. Even the small ones, compact crossovers, which are really just jacked up cars, the very best of them average in the mid-high 20s. And anything that's got any capability is going to do considerably worse than that. It's just the nature of the beast. They're big, they're heavy, they're not aerodynamic. Their purpose is to be useful, not to save gas. If you want to save gas, you have to design a vehicle according to different parameters. So it's really difficult to understand what's going on here. Why GM would say that it's going to stop building passenger cars, which are certainly cars that are more amenable to getting higher gas mileage, and in particular the Chevy Volt, which is a hybrid electric car that actually makes some practical sense. I've got an article up on the website right now that you can go check out that gets into that in greater depth and detail. Also the Chevy Cruze, which is available with a diesel engine. It's the only passenger car that you can still buy in this country that's available with a diesel engine, Volkswagen having had its larynx crushed by the federal government and prohibited from selling them anymore. Anyway, that diesel is capable of averaging in the mid-high 30s and can get 50 or close to 50 on the highway, so it's one of the very few cars that actually might be survivable in a world of 50 mile per gallon mandatory mile per gallon minimums, courtesy of the federal government. So either Mary Barra is being enormously disingenuous, or she's stupendously ignorant of the regulatory regime that General Motors and every other car company is going to have to deal with in the next couple of years. I personally suspect that she is not ignorant. I think that she, along with most of the other honchos of the big car companies, know perfectly well that none of this is viable, and that's why they have committed such tremendous resources to electric cars and to this idea of selling transportation as a service, in other words, ride sharing. This future in which you will no longer own a personal vehicle. Instead, you'll be done per ride. You'll pay for a ride, and the ride will be controlled probably by an automated car. The automated car programmed by the corporations and by the governments to drive at the typical pace of a public bus. People need to get their heads around that and understand that that's what's coming. They've been sold a bill of goods that these autonomous cars, they always use that word autonomous, implying that they're independent, are somehow going to whiz-bang along like the Jetsons with the cartoon that we saw when we were kids. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be programmed according to the least common denominator, to the standards set up by the most henpecky, safety-obsessed little bureaucrat. The cars will never speed. They'll never drive faster than the speed limit. When you come to a stop sign, it'll come to a complete stop. Even if it's a four-way stop and you can see for miles around that there's nobody there, it'll pause for a moment, and then it'll creep forward at a glacial pace, because acceleration isn't safe. Not going to pass anybody else. The list goes on. That's how it's going to be. People listening to this, I'm a voice in the wilderness. You need to realize that's the future. And if we don't punch it in the larynx, that's what's going to happen. That's what we are going to be stuck dealing with. Mary Barra, GM knows it. All the other major car companies know it too, and they have very cynically decided that it's better to crawl into bed with the government than to fight the government. This is something that's been going on now for more than 20 years, at least back into the 90s. The 90s was the very last time that the car industry really put up any kind of a fight against what the government was up to, and that was with the airbag thing. And they lost. And after that, they decided, you know what, it's less effort and we can make more money by just buying into all this. And not only buying into all of it, but anticipating it and actually trying to one-up it and coming up with even more ridiculous things, cost padding, control freaky things that they can stick it to us with. So if you want to understand what's been going on with GM lately, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. They see their future not as selling people cars anymore. They see their future as selling mobility and ride sharing, getting you on the perpetual debt escalator so that you never own anything, that you're constantly just paying and you have very little freedom and latitude to do what you want to do. And that dovetails nicely with what the government wants. People think it's conspiratorial and paranoid, but look at the facts. Look at the way things are trending, and then try and look at things through the eyes of somebody who, for example, wanted to control the country. You want to control mobility. The things that are necessary to control the population are controlling food, energy, mobility. If they can keep you from being able to go where you want to go, when you want to go, how you want to go, they have dramatically restricted your liberty, and they have dramatically heightened their control over you. So I'm telling you, that's what's coming. If I'm wrong 5 years from now, you can present me with a dead crow on a paper plate and I'll dine on the sucker. But I'm pretty sure I'm right. I've been doing this a long time, looked at it from a lot of different angles, and that's where I'm betting my chips. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. Come on down to epautos.com to check out the piece on the on the death of the electric car via General Motors, ironically enough, along with some other good stuff. Should have a review of this Toyota minivan up within the next day or two, so you can look for it there as well, and we'll catch up with you again soon.